Welcome to the Lean Out Your Business podcast, a show dedicated to helping entrepreneurs accelerate business growth and simplify success. I'm your host, Krista Grasso, and I've been working with businesses for more than 2 decades to help them lean out and optimize what's working while eliminating anything that's not adding value. So if you are ready to get more time back in your day, more profit in your business, and to do business differently, growing and scaling on your terms, let's dive into today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. Today, we are talking about some of my favorite topics ever. And I have with you Kiva Slade, and Kiva is amazing. And when I first met her through a group that we are both a member of, I was like, oh, we just could talk all day long about business and about operations and about strategy. And that's what we're going to do today. So let me tell you a little bit about Kiva, and then we are going to dive into an amazing episode today. So Kiva Slade is the CEO and owner of the 516 Collaborative. As a change agent, a certified director of operations, and an online business manager, she's committed to providing small business CEOs with top-notch strategic growth through high-level strategy, business planning, team leadership, and operational excellence that they need to show up as their best self in their business and personal lives. Through integrity, candor, curiosity, optimism, and fun, gotta have that fun in there, she helps you execute your vision so that you can make the most of your time. So Kiva holds a master's degree in public administration and has operated her own jewelry business, something else that we have in common. And her 20 years of experience run the gamut from legislative director for a Congress member to chief encouragement officer for her teenage children, of which we had a fun chat about before we started recording today. So Kiva, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here today.
Thanks so much, Krista. I'm excited and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
All right. So I want to dive in. Let's get right into business and foundations, right? So as we all know, solid business foundations really critical, really important. But what do you consider to be those critical pieces of having solid business foundations?
Yeah, so one of the things I love to share with people is that for most of us, we've built our businesses and we really do have visions of them lasting for a long time. We're not here for like a flash in the past, pan it and be like, okay, that was it. That was fun. So when we're looking at having a solid business foundation, we really need to talk about HR or in many, human resources and our teams. Okay, financials, marketing, operations and systems, and then the big one, mindset. Because if we're honest, we can have all the other ones really nice and tidy. But if our mindset isn't where it needs to be, it's kind of useless at that point for the rest of the things to be nice and tidy if those things are not going to actually be implemented or we're thinking we can't move forward. So, and just, when we're, like I said, HR is really about that team. Okay, because for most of us, if you're a solo entrepreneur, you will grow to a point where you realize, like, yeah, I can't continue to do this all by myself, okay, without continuing to sacrifice sleep, family, relationships, I don't know, bathing, all of the things that come with that if you're spending that much time in your business. And we think about marketing, which we touched on a little before in our conversation. There's a need everyone has for visibility. We cannot pretend that, folks are just going to find us, even if we're in a referral network. People have to know what you do in order to refer you to someone else, which really comes down to that marketing and visibility. And then there's financials. I have, like yourself, having run a product-based business, it is so crucial. Like, let's just be honest, product-based business financials are a heck of a lot harder than service-based. Let's just be, that's just the crux of it. Because if you're dealing with materials, or in our case, it's jewelry, like I purchased 100 beads. Okay, that's my starting inventory. And now I have 50 beads left at the end of the year. What does this mean? How much was it per bead? Okay, thankfully in service-based business, you don't have to have that level. But it's important to have that solid understanding for your financials, whether that's a spreadsheet for where you are right now, whether that's QuickBooks or some other service that you are utilizing. Having that in place is it gives you a world of peace and just relief, especially at the end of the year when it comes time for taxes. But also, it allows you to know your numbers, and knowing the numbers allows you to pay yourself. And that is a huge thing for me when I work with entrepreneurs, that this thought of let's pay, turn everything back into the business. And it's like, you will burn yourself out. And if you're not collecting something from that business, that something, whether it's a small amount or a larger amount, helps keep you motivated to move forward, if we're honest. And then lastly, operations and systems. Honestly, as much as we love to talk about them, not all of them are things, okay? Sometimes operations are really your people. What do your people look like in terms of how does that system come together? And so really starting to delve into that part of it as well, and really make sure that whether it's you as yourself or you plus a virtual assistant, you still have systems in your business. You may not call them systems because you're seeing it as it's just what I do every single time that I have to do X, Y, or Z, but that's actually the beginning part of that system. And those systems need to be looked at, they need to be audited, and then obviously tweaked as your team continues to grow and your business grows.
Yes to all of that. I agree so much to all of it. And I will say it's really interesting having started my product-based businesses first. The consulting that I had done through my corporate clients early on was really easy. I got basically the equivalent of a paycheck. So I didn't have to worry about a lot of finances. And then I started my jewelry business, and oh yeah, that was a fun ride. But by then when I did open my own consulting business, my newer one, boy, was it so much easier. I mean, so
Yes.
much easier coming out of the product space. I was like, oh, I got this.
Absolutely. You're like, oh, I can do this with my eyes closed. Like, it is a whole nother thing dealing with starting inventory and ending inventory and cost of goods sold and a host of other things that you're like, oh my gosh, is that a clog like a shoe or a cog and a wheel? Like, what are these names and acronyms people are testing at me that people are expecting you to know? And you're trying to figure out, what's my overhead? Oh goodness, am I charging for this part? And it's needed so that you're not out there just willy nilly with your pricing and actually making a profit. Which can feel hard if you're on some platforms like Etsy or Shopify. You're like a race to the bottom, and hey, let's be honest, silver costs what silver costs. Okay, so if you're paying X amount of dollar per troy ounce, like, you need to factor that in to make sure that when it comes time to price those earrings, that necklace, that ring, that you're actually recouping your costs and hopefully making a profit to actually be able to pay yourself. But yeah, the financial end is totally different when you're just like, oh, service based. Oh, I love this. I got active campaign, check. I have Zoom, check. It's just like, I don't have a starting and ending inventory. Yippee! All of a sudden, you feel like you could go dance in a puddle like when as a kid, because there's not a lot of extra work. So 100% agree with you on that. The financial side is a lot easier.
Absolutely. And then the other piece of that, I think the one benefit of the finances being a bit complex with a product based business is you do get really careful with your costs in figuring out how much you're going to charge for your products. And I think the downside to an online business and a coaching business, you had mentioned paying yourself, we sometimes forget that our time needs to be factored in to the cost of things. And it's really important to do that, even if you don't pay yourself today, which I hope every single one of you listening pays yourself and pays yourself well. But if you're in a place where you aren't, imagine you are when you're figuring your pricing, because your
That's right.
time is not free.
Your time isn't free. And I think we want to think about the things that we are paying for that help us deliver whatever it is that our service is. But yeah, you need to have an hourly rate. What is that hourly rate? And I don't want you pulling a number out of the sky. It feels pretty good, like, oh, my hourly rate's $50 because I think that's what people are paying. And you start to realize, though, you feel grumpy when you're doing your service. When you're running your business, you're like, oh goodness, I have to do this for this client. And at this particular point, I'm just not happy. And there's that rub that you're constantly getting. That's typically because you've hit that point of, I'm not charging enough for this. I am not getting paid what I should get paid for this. And we can debate whether or not we should charge our worth and what that means and how you define it. But you should be able to calculate based on your value, your education. What are you bringing to the table? What is your hourly rate? And if you're doing a consulting business, okay, then I want you to 2.5x that hourly rate, like, because that's what it is when you're doing consult. So really start to think through what that number is. And like Krista, like you said, have a number. Have a number, because if you don't have a number, it gets really murky, and it's not a good feeling when you have to have, like, you're at that 11th hour of trying to meet a deadline, and the whole time you're cranky because you're just like, I can't believe I charged X for this. This is so much more valuable than that. And trust me, being the cheapest may feel good at first because you're like, I just want to get some clients. But after a while, you're going to realize being the cheapest is hurting you. It's hurting you because people have a perception that she's the cheapest. That doesn't mean she's the best. Because you can't be both. You can't be the cheapest and be the best. They don't agree. So it's so important though to have a number. And I love we had talked earlier about Funnel Gorgeous, but Julie Stone really talks about. And if you have a number and you feel it's a little low, after you've sold 3 to 5 of those, I want you to raise that number. After you sell another 3 to 5, I want you to raise that number again. Because in most cases, especially as women, we're still not at the number we need to be at. Even after we've raised it 2, 3, 4 times, we're still in many cases undercharging and undervaluing what we do in our clients' lives and in their businesses. So have a number. If you need a little extra support in that number, start looking around in some Facebook groups and do some online searches, but definitely have a number and look to increase that number. And when you feel like you want to throw up, add another $100 on, because then you're probably actually close to where you need to be when you're ready to just like, I can't possibly say this number. And then you start to say it and you're like, I think I'm going to feel sick. Yeah, then you're pretty close.
And know that 6 months later, you're going to look back and say, and I can't believe that's all I charged.
Absolutely. And you're like going to want to kick yourself again. Just go ahead and raise it, change all your stuff, and keep it going. Kick yourself just a little bit and then keep moving.
So I want to dive into operations and team, but before we do, I really love that you included mindset in, the importance of a business foundation, because I think it's critical. Like, I am a big strategy person, of course, but all the strategies, all the tactics, everything mean nothing if you keep getting in your own way. And so we just talked about pricing as one thing, but are there other things from a mindset perspective that you see quite often that you end up helping people through?
Absolutely. And, just so we're clear on the mindset, it never ends. Okay. I hate to be the one to, burst anyone's bubble out there. It never ends. It really doesn't. Because even after that 6 months, when you just realize that you didn't charge enough and you start to charge more, you're going to have some mindset issues. The next thing that happens 6 months from then, you're going to have additional mindset issues. So that's one area that never ends in your business. And every single level you grow to, you're going to have to continue to deal with that. I think another area that I see a lot is obviously that first one, which is human resources. It's with scaling. A lot of times we think of scaling in terms of money. Scaling is really team. Scaling is that team growth. And what does that look like for you? And a lot of times, our businesses are like our kids, and you remember like the commercial, and it's like the first babysitter, you're like, I need them to have a PhD. By the second child, you're like, hey, car mechanic dude, can you watch the baby? Because it's that kind of way. But our businesses are like the first kid, and we're like, so no, oh goodness, I need help. But nobody, absolutely no one can do any of the things that I do. And if you're running a business where no one can do anything but you, then you don't have a business. I'm just going to tell you that. Because the reality is, you, other people can do what you can do. And the reality also is, they can probably do it better than you. Uh, like, you're operating pretty much outside of like what we would call your zone of genius, which in many cases, as a visionary, it's big picture planning. It is not in the nitty gritties of, did that get tagged right in Active Campaign? And is the right workflow about to kick off in Dubsado? That's just so not even your lane. But that's where we find ourselves operating, because in many cases, we've had to. We started our businesses, and until we feel that we're making enough money, that's a whole nother conversation. We don't want to hire. So that's a huge part that I see a lot. And I think this other part is within the operations and systems. It's that thinking that either A, I've documented some things in my business or have a few SOPs, so I've done good enough. I have a few systems that are mapped out good enough. I've looked at them twice in the last 12 years. That was good enough. And good enough will keep you as an employee of your business and not the owner of your business. And that's the part I think people miss when it comes to operations, systems, processes, automations, integrations, all the things that come under that umbrella because of the fact it's not sexy. Let's be honest. It's not fun stuff. It's the stuff we stuff in we all have that closet. We push everything in there that you just, oh, I don't really know where this goes. Oh, I might hold it. I might get rid of it. Right now, just go put it in the closet. Everybody in your house knows where the closet is. You have multiple closets, but that one is the one that everybody knows to go put that stuff. And it's great until what? You go to open the door to the closet and it's like, oh, goodness gracious, there's a lot of stuff in here. What are we going to do now? Or the door just comes off the hinges and you're forced to deal with the closet. That's the same in our businesses with systems. It's like, I think I might want to talk about that one day. One day never comes. It doesn't come. It's out on any calendar I can find, honestly. But what winds up happening is something breaks in our business. And typically it breaks within a system or a process. Okay. You want to scale and you're like, I have the team, but your team wasn't onboarded properly. Team onboarding is a system. And if you don't do that well, you might have some bad apples in that hiring bunch that you just had. And then you realize it after the fact. And now you're like, oh, VAs are horrible because I've had three of them and none of them worked out. How did you onboard them? Well, I hired them and I just tell them to get to work, and it's just like, okay. So when that didn't work out the first and second time, you tried it a third and thought there would be a different result. So, and then it's like, how do we get rid of clients? Like, there needs to be an offboarding process. Are you gathering testimonials? Maybe there's a case study. There's something else, a referral bonus or something. Oh, well, when we're done, I tell them bye, and it's like, we need a system for that, and then when we start to take the time documenting out those systems and looking at what our process is. And trust me, they will change. Your process now of maybe a small business, maybe you're on MailChimp and there's a way that you have a system for communicating with your clients, okay? Maybe you hit 1,000 subscribers on MailChimp and you say, I want to move to Active Campaign. This is how you've migrated them. And now that you're in Active Campaign, the same system that you were using for MailChimp is going to be different. So you're going to need to audit that and say, this is how we now communicate with clients using this particular software application. Okay, and what that looks like, who on the team is responsible for different parts of that. And it's like the systems, the ops, they're just not the things that we love to focus on. But in many of the instances, those are the things that, once again, move you from employee of your business where you're just like, Kiva, I don't have time. Krista, I can't do one more thing. I can't even think of one more thing to, oh, I'm utilizing my CEO day today. And my CEO day, I'm going to the park and I'm going to go dream about what the next level of my business is. You don't have CEO days when you have no systems. You're like, CEO day? Yeah, I had a quick thought in the shower this morning. Man, it was great, but I didn't write it down. And you're like, what happened to what's next in my business? So obviously I can go on a rant, but I won't, but like those are things that I see that are just constants. It's mindset. It's also looking at team and it's also looking at ops and really realizing that they are parts of our business that as we continue to grow, we will need to revisit and we will need to hone and we will need to audit in many cases to ensure that what we have in place now is actually going to serve us for the next level that we see ourselves growing to.
Yeah, I agree 100% with everything that you just said. And there is this natural resistance quite often to developing systems. And I think, of course, as the visionary leader in your business, you're the idea generator. You're out there, you probably have like 40 great ideas before breakfast, right? You're not thinking about systematizing things, but you should be recognizing the importance of them. And I think sometimes people mistakenly think that that system is going to give them too much like rigidity in their business. It's going to limit them. Whereas it's the exact opposite. It's what gives you the freedom and the flexibility to actually step away from your business and do what
Absolutely.
you, yeah, are most aligned with. So, what do you kind of see? How do you help people work through some of that almost like misperception about operations and systems?
Yeah, definitely. And we like to start off a lot of times with just mapping out what's going on in your business. What do you feel that feels clunky in your business? Because when we take a moment to step back, most of us will have something that's like, yeah, that client onboarding, man. Some days we seem to have it and it's working, and some days something kind of goes off the rails, you know? And when you see something within your business that isn't yielding you consistent results, it typically means there's something wrong in that system. There's something wrong in the way that that's being delivered that is not constantly hitting the mark. That means you need to pay attention to it. And so really starting to talk through what feels like it's working, what feels like it's not working. And those seem like simple questions, but they really do get the brain to start to really and analyze what actually doesn't feel good in my business right now. And a lot of times we might hold on to something that we feel, I'm the only one who can do this part. And by you holding it so long, your team has been waiting in many cases to take a snap at it and like, oh, we could still do that in a much better way, but we're in our own way for that. So starting to ask with those general questions of what feels clunky, what feels like it's not working, what actually feels really good in your business. And I tell people all the time, like you said, systems doesn't mean rigidity at all. It is actually freeing. It's the freedom that you're absolutely looking for. And it doesn't have to be complicated. And I think that's the thing that really serves as a hurdle for a lot of people because they're thinking like, oh my gosh, I remember in corporate and there was this SOP manual and it was 5 binders big, and you're just like, oh, you want me to create that? Oh, that's so not going to happen. No, we all utilize Loom on a regular basis in our businesses. Most of us are always like, I Loom my kids. Okay, like we use Loom for everything. Use it to start to document your systems. It's such a quick and easy way. It suits those who are auditory as well as those that are visual on your team. Run it through Otter AI. Get the transcript of it. Okay, have a team member, your VA, clean it up, match it up with the video, and actually double check the process. Like, you described this, but you're so used to doing it, you actually skip step number 3. So, add in step number 3 as to what that is. And literally, this could be filed in your project management tool, Google Drive, and that's the thing that you want to start doing. But taking it as saying, like, we have our sales or we have our lead gen that's under sales. Like, this is the process for that. So, can it take time? Absolutely. I am not going to be, beating around the bush. It could literally, to get your business fully systemized, anywhere from 3 to 6 months to have all the things documented. However, it's kind of like insurance. I don't know if I'll ever really need it, but you have it. And that's the same thing. When you have that part documented, you have all of your systems pretty laid out, like you have your marketing, you have your client onboarding, all the things, product fulfillment, everything that you have going on. It makes it so much easier now to, hey, we're about to launch a new program and we're expecting an influx of 50 people. Okay, great. Let's look quickly at this, go through the onboarding. We can tweak this super fast to now accommodate these 50 people. Okay, great. We got these 22 rolling off of this program. This is what we need to do next. You have it already in place, and it doesn't feel then like an extra burden of, we never wrote any of this down. And Sally left, and Sally was the only one who did this. And now you're looking for a new Sally, but beep, and no one knows where, like, the brain drain it just like left out of the building. But now you don't have that problem. You have the systems, you have it documented, and it is such an insurance policy for your business. Because let me tell you something, At some point, some of you are sitting on a business that you might actually be able to sell. And that buyer does not want you, as the owner, to walk out of the business with all of the information. Having documented procedures, having documented systems actually increases the value of your business because they're like, oh my gosh, we can actually keep this going in a turnkey fashion because you're not taking all of that valuable information with you. They are able to see it, they're able to see it document, they're able to replicate what's been taking place and replicate it with the same consistency that the client base is familiar with. So it actually benefits you financially and it benefits you with time as the CEO. There's an amazing book, Built to Sell by John Warlow.
Mm.
Even if you're never thinking of selling, he so hones in on the importance of systematizing your business. Some of us are doing way too much because we won't systematize. And so we're trying to keep all the balls in the air. That if we took the time to systematize, we'd realize, like, I actually don't have to do those other 22 things. And then we're like, what am I going to do with this now time? I don't know, go to Jamaica when COVID ends. But, like you can do so many other things when the time is given back to you in your business. And it allows you, I think, for visionary CEOs, it allows the closing of mental tabs. Like, I don't know if we always talk enough about the mental load that we carry as business owners. And when you can't sleep at night, your family feels you're distracted. Your significant other is like, you're at your desk 24/7, 365. Do you ever have time for anything else in life? And it's because we're carrying that mental load of, did this get done? Did this get done? Did this happen? Did this happen? And systems, us, is those things that allow us to close those tabs so that when we are, Krista and I are having wine out on the beachfront decks, we're like totally not talking and worrying about business. We're enjoying conversation about everything else because those mental tabs have been closed and we're not carrying that load. So, long story short, it is not sexy. I will give you that. It is not the most exciting thing in your business. In many cases, you're not going to feel it's not sales. So you're not going to feel it's a wise investment of time and or money. But the reality is that part of a firm foundation and solid foundation actually opens you up to more money in your business and more time in your life.
Yeah, I agree completely. And there was so much gold and everything that you just said there. Yes, 100%. And so I've got one last question for you before I want to, have you tell everybody all about you and then ask you the ending question that I ask everybody. But that's for those who maybe are in a place where they have either been a little reluctant to build their team, or maybe they're ready to grow their team and they aren't quite sure what to do next. What are some of the tips that you have for them around building a really solid team?
Yes, definitely. I think one of the first things is really starting to make out a list. And it's, kind of we all learn like back of the envelope kind of a process. But what exactly do you do in your business? Like literally list it all out. Brain dump all the things that you do. And then I want you to think about when you start to look at that list, start to break it down even further. Okay. Is it kind of a $1,000 task in your business in terms of like an ROI? So, for example, strategy. Okay, that's something you as a visionary might want to hold on to. All right, importing the CSV file from Zoom into your mail program. I'm going to put that down and say like a $20 task. Okay, that's a virtual assistant task. But you find yourself doing it and doing it on a regular basis, right? Or maybe setting up the Zap between Zoom and your mail program. Start to, once you have that brain dump, I want you to really be honest with yourself and start parsing out what you absolutely are the only person in your business that can do that particular thing and what other things can someone else do. Put the ego aside and really think about that. And once you get that, you might divide them into like maybe it's a VA task, maybe it's you are at a point in your team or your life or your business where you have someone who is like your a little higher than a virtual assistant. Maybe you also have a ton of tech in your business and you need a tech VA in addition to an administrative VA. Whatever that is, I want you to have that column over there of only tasks that you can complete. And when you start that process, you'll start to hone in on where you need to fill in better gaps. Okay, I think another key thing when looking to build a team is understanding yourself. And I don't know if we do enough of that. Take your Colby, take a Strength Finders. There's enough tests that are out there. I personally like Colby because it's not personality based. It really looks at how you as a person approach things in life. So, how you approach problems and how you function. Understanding yourself better helps you become a better leader when you have a team. So, understand yourself, understand what you are doing and what you probably should stop doing. All right. And then start to build from there and say, okay, I need to hold these tasks to me. I need to get rid of and stop doing these tasks. How do I move this forward? Okay. And it might be you need to start small because let's be honest, we can't all go out there and hire like our dream team. We're like, okay, we got Michael Jordan over here. We got, like Larry Bird. We're like, this is going to be it. We can't do that. So maybe we start small. We start small with hiring. If you don't have a virtual assistant, you hire that virtual assistant. If you need a tech VA, you hire the tech VA. If maybe you're at a point in your business where you're like, look, Kiva, I got 3 VAs and I got this going on, maybe then you're ready for an online business manager or a director of ops, depending on like where the revenue is in your business. And you're like, I need someone who can also serve as a strategic partner and a sounding board who also will be like, hey, that's a really great idea. No, we can't actually implement that right now. So I'm going to move that into our bucket of to-do items for later. We'll revisit it because let's be honest, you need someone else like that in your business because if everyone on your team just says yes to everything, it can be dangerous. So depending on where you find yourself, that's what I want you to start thinking through. Starting with the brain dump of everything that you do. I don't want you to leave anything off that list. Every single thing. And when you sit there and do that, a lot of times people have really a cathartic experience because they're like, whoa, I didn't realize I was doing all of that. And most of the time we don't because it just has become part of our habit of what we do. We get up in the morning, we sit down at our desk, and then we do da 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 da. And it's like, wow, I was doing a whole lot in my business. And so once you start to figure out what you shouldn't hold on to, and you start then deciding, what do you need to do? I want you to, if you haven't already, start thought about or have defined for your business mission, vision, and values. People are like, Kiva, but what for? Because if you're going to hire, you want to attract people who actually understand and can buy into your mission, vision, and values. If you don't have any, you'll attract all kinds of people. They may be your people, they may not be your people. But when building a team, you want people who align with you. You want people who understand, who buy in, and that allows you to at least have some longevity with a team. Because let's be honest, hiring is expensive, and if you spend time investing in the wrong hire, and then when that hire leaves, you're feeling burnt, and now you have to spend money again to hire again and to retrain someone else. So having that good a really strong understanding of your mission, vision, and values before you put out a job description. Okay, using that brain dump to even define what those tasks are and be honest with yourself. I have to tell people a secret sometimes. Unicorns aren't real. I'm sorry. I hate to again burst the bubble, but I see job descriptions where it's like, I need an admin, tech, financial, funnel, copywriter, unicorn. You've just mentioned 5 positions. You will be disappointed with every single person because there is not one person who's going to live up well in every single one of those areas. And you're going to be frustrated. Don't frustrate yourself. Don't frustrate yourself. If you really only need the admin person for 10 hours a week, the tech person on a project basis, the copywriter every quarter, be honest about that. Like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I need. Okay? Don't oversell what you need. Don't undersell it. Just be really honest with yourself and say, my budget is this. This is what I need right now, and this is what I can do. And I think that's something that we overlook when it comes to hiring. We're like, Keith, I really can't hire. For those of us in the United States, minimum wage is like less than $15 an hour. Like you would be surprised at people who are like, I'd love to take that on at 15, at $20 an hour. at $22 an hour. And you're building like a business and you are contributing to someone else's household, excuse me, in a way that allows them freedom and allows them to contribute to their own households in a way that gives them dignity and respect. And I think that that's something that's super important as well. So don't think that you can't hire because you're like, oh gosh, I don't have $45 an hour. You can definitely do that and do it in a way that aligns with you and your values. So say all that to say, know yourself. Because if you don't know yourself, you're more than likely going to bring on a wrong type of hire. Know your business in terms of your mission, vision, and values. Because if they're not defined, you can attract some people who are not aligned with you and your business. And if they're client facing, that can spell just disaster. All right. And then after, do the brain dump. Get it all out of your head and don't hide from yourself what it is that you actually do in your business. Because like you have to be honest with yourself, list it all out and start to then decide, well, what is your next hire? What is your next best hire after that one? What is your next best hire after that one? And it's a process, and you really want it to be a process, because if you brought on three people all at the same time, like, it could be a bad episode of the more like Larry Moe and Curly. Like, it could be a really bad thing of what's going on there. So you want it to be a process. Don't rush the process. Um, and just really be, I can't stress enough of how clear you need to be in what it is that you're looking for. And also that unicorns are not real. I just have to say that
I love that. But it is so true. It is so true. And I've made that hiring mistake before too. I've literally put out job postings saying, looking for a unicorn. I need somebody who can, right? And I think we all start there because we're like, if I could just hire one person who could do all the things, and it's so enticing. I mean, we definitely want that person in theory, but the problem is nobody is that good at all the things. So even if you found the random person who was experienced in all the things, they aren't going to probably get you the results that you want. And it's going to be disappointing for everybody involved. So I love that. Super actionable strategies there. So thank you. And yes, guys, as sad as it is, unicorns are not real.
I know. We're sorry.
We all want them. We do. We really do. But so tell everybody what's going on with you, what's coming up, and where can they find more about you? And, if they're interested in working with you, just tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, definitely. You can always check me out on my website, the516collaborative.com. In terms of what's coming up, I have an amazing, I'm not even going to call it it's an offer, really is what it is. And just really looking to help people when it comes to process improvement. It's huge, obviously, on my heart. It's something that I see even in brick and mortar businesses. When you go someplace and you're like, wow, this could be improved if they did this step and then this step. And when you find yourself doing those things, I'm always one to believe that you need to lean into what is your natural giftings. So yeah, I have a offer where you can work with me. I literally come into your business. We do all the things. We start off with a huge audit of every single one of your systems, okay? All of your everything. And then from there, we dig even deeper into what's working, what's not working, after we understand what it is exactly going on at this particular point. And then we actually go through the documenting process. So it really is a lot of the behind the scenes that's getting done while you're still able to focus on what you excel at in your business and not having to worry about that back end. So that's one way that people can definitely work with me. On my website, there's actually, for those that are looking to hire, I have a freebie on what it looks like to hire that first virtual assistant. So feel free to visit the 516collaborative.com and download that, and really just walks you through. And I include a list of 101 tasks that a virtual assistant could help with. You can't hire them to do all 101, but it'll help you start to think sometimes a bit bigger as to what someone could do or how they could help you in your business. So I have a Facebook group, which is the Collab community. I am a huge, obviously, my business name and everything else. I'm a firm believer in collaboration. And I always joke that whether it's, brownies, pizza, gluten-free tiramisu, there's enough for all of us. So I really do believe in that. And I think as women, we can harness so much power and leverage and have such a greater impact by actually working together and not feeling like there's competition. So you can definitely join me there as well. So that's where you can find me.
Excellent. I love it. And so, final question, and I'm so excited to hear your answer, is how do you work smarter, not harder, and keep things lean in your business?
Oh, this is such a good one, Krista. For me, I almost feel like it's a daily struggle in the sense of learning how to best lean on my team. So for me, it's a lot of communication and talking about the things that I am either thinking about and or I'm doing that my team doesn't exactly might know about. And when I do that, I find that and not only the verbalization of it, then my team is like, oh, so we'll take that off your plate because sometimes they do. I'll be honest. They have to literally take some things because I still struggle. But it's literally it's being very open with my team with where we're going and what we're doing. So they feel empowered, if I'm honest, to literally come and say, we're going to take that from you and work on this and get it back to you. And that's the thing that I need. And I'm still a work in progress, and that I'm working on to be even more communicative with them so that it's not even a step that I have to stumble over and that it happens more frequently. So, yep, I really just communicate well with my team. And that is what I found has been very freeing for me to work very lean in my business because then I'm not stepping into areas that I really don't need to be.
Brilliant. I absolutely love it. And I love the transparency, right? We're all making this up as we go along. Some of
Yeah.
us have achieved different levels of success, but it's never like we know it all, have it all figured out. And so I love everything that you shared today. Thank you so much for being such an amazing guest. And everyone, you'll find all the links, all the things down in the show notes. Do go check everything out. Kiva, I can't wait to have you back again in the future. Thank you again for being here today. Everyone will see you again next week.
Thanks so much, Krista.
Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Lean Out Your Business podcast. I hope you got a lot of value and actionable insights from today's show and would love if you take a moment to leave us a review. If you have any questions on today's episode or on how to lean out your business, join us over in our private Facebook community where every week we do live training and Q&A, and I'd love to have you be part of the conversation. Head to leanoutmethod.com/group to join us. And before you go, be sure to subscribe to the show so you're the first to know when we release a new episode. We'll see you next week.